Today I thought we would discuss the city of my birth. So they say, Atlantic City. Sometimes things are not as they seem. This is like the original Las Vegas, with a really interesting history. The city was incorporated in 1854. Okay, 1854. The city is incorporated. 100 years after the new corporation of America begins. Prior to Atlantic City's founding, the region served as a summer home for the Lenape, a native tribe. The Lenape, an indigenous people of the northeast woodlands. There we go. So these people used to come to the city, we are told, in the summer to vacationing. Savage tribe, of course, needing a vacation from their hunting and gathering. So they're very clear about this, but they're not sure about when the precise date of European settlement in Atlantic City occurred. Not even sure. They are sure about the events before their arrival. Makes perfect sense. It's commonly thought that in 1783, Jeremiah Leeds had a home here. They're just not sure. So, 1850 to present day, Atlantic City was developed into a resort town. And then in 1853, it was named Atlantic City. Do you see how stupid this is? 1853, it was named Atlantic City. Does this make any sense? Why not Atlantic Town? Just boom, Atlantic City, 1853. In 1853, the first commercial hotel was built. Okay, are we moving a little fast here? First, it's Native Americans that visit in the summer, vacationing. They probably had beach towels. Or did they occupy this city? Of course they did. Of course it wasn't just a summer thing. Well, it doesn't make sense until I show you some pictures. Let's check out early Atlantic City history. Thank you for being here this week. I love you all. God bless and welcome. Okay, so here we're going to check out this video by Jarid Boosters. In the title we have Atlantic City, Oldest Photographs. Great. So here we can see a perfect grid laid out. Atlantic City Avenue. Looks like there's train tracks. And then they shoot off this way and this way. We have a hotel. Another hotel here, a depot. And when I was born, my parents, immigrants, were running a little restaurant somewhere down here. I'll have to find out the address. And very perfect from the get-go, that's all. And here we go. This is called the Boardwalk, and my mom would ride her bike along this boardwalk with me in the back seat. I would often fall asleep. But by the time I was born, in the 70s, most of this would be gone. But it seems that one could feel that there was much more, even with the buildings missing. In fact, there were giant holes, huge 3 or 4 story holes where these buildings, now I realize, stood. It was just a big demolition fest. And now I see why. Now I understand what had been removed. A lot remained and still does, but not like this. This is the beginning. Again, Native Americans vacationing here, and then in 1853 they build the first hotel, and then by the mid-1960s they begin demolishing them. 100 years later, does that make any sense? This is spectacular. This is, again, the Las Vegas of the East Coast, the original. This isn't just cheap facading like Las Vegas. This is brick, concrete, steel, everything. Too early. Hence why it disappears. Thank God for old photos and postcards. Here we can see that boardwalk, and we can see just how primitive the people are. I think there's 2 people stuffed in this chariot, maybe 3. This man seems to be struggling. And look at this. This is just one little side hotel. If you look in the background here, everything is complete, just built out all around the hotels. Every square inch has been landscaped and built upon. This is beautiful and perfect. These people have walked into this abandoned Atlantic City. There are more rooms in just this one hotel than the population justifies. Here we can see that boardwalk again, and it looks like they have perhaps put fresh boards down on this boardwalk, and what we can see are old rotting supports down below, not matching the fresh boards on the top. This is a brand new deal, and they're just unveiling it, and these people are way too overdressed, strolling on this fresh boardwalk for the first time. They've just gotten off a ship and are taking over this abandoned city. Well, again, we did have the vacationing natives. They are probably upset at this point, losing their beautiful city. Look at just this building. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stories. Right on the coast. Not the best place to build on the sand, unless you have heavy equipment and again are willing to excavate or dig down 2 or 3 stories to have a good foundation and support for such a building. Again, this is tiny compared to the resorts we're going to look at. So here we go. Come on. I don't know if you can see the aging to these buildings. Look at this one over here. I think this is the Marlborough back here, and I've never seen these massive pillars in front of it before. This is new. Usually you don't see these in a lot of the photos. You do see these towers behind it, and of course the building. This one here is called the Traymore, I believe, and they've put a sign up here that says Stanley Theater, but I want you to notice that this thing is cooked out. Cooked and weathered. Looks like a tsunami hit it and stained it. I don't think there's any windows in it. This thing is huge. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, maybe 20 stories. We're not even seeing the whole building. Here's a little look at downtown. We see how absolutely primitive the people are, and this city is just towering into the sky. I mean, overkill. Totally built for a large population. Very sophisticated and not matching the people. And here we can see how primitive they want to portray the native people as being. These would be the Atlantic City vacationers before the new arrivals. And you must understand the new arrivals. It's going on today. It's not shocking to us in this community to see what's going on in every nation. A shuffling of people. It can happen gradually while the people are still occupying the lands, or it can happen all at once in a reset, a cataclysmic event. And I think in present times it would be the former, and in the past it was the latter. So gorgeous buildings, and right away just cheapening their beauty with all this junk signage. I mean, these people treat life like it's a fair, that you must just sell stuff to people as they walk by. Very, very fair vibe. Food, Coke, soda water, just whatever. Throw a sign up and sell something to someone. I mean, the whole thing is being treated like fairgrounds. Cheap amusement, gambling, very little historical information given to how a city just sprouts up like this. Similar to San Francisco. 10, 15 years, everything's done, ready to house 1 million people. We see the same thing going on here. Hotel Dennis, and just exquisite. Look at this thing. Look at the arches. Just this section right here. Just this arched entryway, which is already 2 floors, is a perfect hotel in this early time period. 10 more floors on top and 2 wings? Yes. I mean, it kind of reminds me of the cities in China in modern times. We can look at cities in China that they have built, we are told, and they look new, but nobody's occupying them. They have built entire cities for 1 million people, and nobody's living there. That doesn't ring any bells. But we have the same thing going on here, 100 plus years earlier. Before mass transportation, before mass anything. They're throwing up a city like this in 1853? Come on. I think that this is my most clear and obvious video. I don't know. Am I off? Let's look at some more. Here again, a different angle of Hotel Dennis. So where's all those archways we were looking at? I'm not sure, but this is so beautiful. Timeless architecture. Here we see Congress Hall. A little overkill. We see the horses and buggies in the streets. And here's a hotel guide. Love it. They've already assigned rates. How many rooms? Even weekly rates. So $2 per day. Pretty good deal. Looks like some go up to $3.50. And the Traymore we see has 117 rooms, $3 to $5 a day, or $25 per week. I mean, that was a lot of hotels. That is just stupid. And you saw how beautiful they are. And forget about the beauty. Let's just say they were squared off and ugly. Still unbelievable. People are building log cabins in this time period. The Native Americans down the street are wearing loincloths. And they used to vacation here, and now you have like 200 hotels and some tourist guide who is vacationing. Times are supposed to be rough. Well, we did see all those people in suits getting off the boat. I mean, way too clean. These people are polished, just perfectly established in every way. Not a speck of dirt on their clothing. We see this cheap wood fence back here behind them, and that would continue until my personal experience of this city in my youth. Always walls covering up the big holes, and they would have like little peep windows so that you could look into the construction site. And look at this brick, super tech lighting, columns. This is old. This is all so old. And look at the horse and wagon in the road. And this, nobody's delivering anything. There's no work going on. Everybody is clean and strolling around. A happy inheritance going on here. This is not new. None of this is new. Come on. Everything. The electrical infrastructure. All they have done is put up these cheap signs. Look at this sign. It doesn't even belong here. The Jackson. There you go. So you built this hotel, the Jackson. Millions of bricks. Super detailed ornamentation everywhere. And then you couldn't spend a few more bucks for a nice sign? You couldn't put it somewhere else? No. Hang it on the railing. Here something has been removed, some kind of signage, and a light above it to light up this sign that's now missing. We see a board in the window, and you see it's not much different here. Again, 1853, they're just starting out. San Francisco is starting out in 1849. We always had this impression in history that the East got some great head start because it's older. But actually, when we look into it, it's the same thing. Even over there, even in Atlantic City, which is not far from New York City, not far from the founding of the nation, and yet they're just getting this late start, similar to Salt Lake City. So we're told everyone is really getting things going in the 1850s. Then, when we read a lot of the stories, 1890 seems to be when they cram a lot of history into the time period. And really, I think that 1890 is more realistically when things are beginning. When I look at the progression of things, it happens within a 150-year period. Up to this point, it takes that long to reestablish an abandoned city or nation. Some nations they're still working on right now, as I've shared in past videos, but I hope this is becoming as clear to you as it is to me. Here we go. Such BS. Towers, more than one story, and this is the condition that you're living in? I started out this video telling you I had 14 tons of 3/4 inch gravel delivered in one dump truck. That was a big deal for me. It always is. Something I think about for a year before making the call. And what about these people? These people aren't getting a fraction of that gravel delivered, let alone the building materials in this time period. Here we see a dog running wildly through the streets. His horse is wildly galloping. And these people, I don't know why it seems like they're struggling. Hang on, dear. Don't let me go. I won't, I've got you. The hotel's not far. Oh, thank God. And here's their hotel. Made it back safely. And all these people dressed well from toe to chin with their umbrellas and their hotels. Here again we see the absolute cheapness of the inheritors. Like a circus or a fair. Cheap awnings. I hated these awnings ever since I was a child. My parents' restaurant had one on it. A 2-story brick building. I never liked how these got dirty. And it makes sense now. Look at this hotel towering behind this cheapness. And then the signs aren't even straight. They can't even hang a straight sign. You know what they've done is they haven't removed the flare on top of the building, the beautiful old world flare, and they've just stuck this sign on it and it's pushing forward. They didn't even care. This sign as well. And yet the building itself is a brick building, an old, look at the brick here. Let me try to zoom in. You see it, right? Old, weathered brick. The building itself, the face of it is beautiful. Weathered, they may have painted it. Brady's. And then they have completely covered it with cheap signage. And here's actually the entrance to the hotel, this big beast. We can see the same building materials here and some more cheap signage. I think it says cigar here. Here we see the new fresh boardwalk. Again, as we discussed, the piers seem to be older, the supports. And even though it looks like an individual building, all of this just connects and goes on. Again, who builds out into the sea in this early time period? Just a bad idea. And here we see a bird's eye view. You know how I love these bird's eye views and believe that they're actually showcasing these buildings for sale to these people, these well-dressed first wave of inheriting people. You see a couple cathedrals, some mansions, some depot, another hotel over here, just a few. Somebody has probably received these in the first pick and now they're selling them off individually. Like this whole package was their wholesale deal, maybe a block or two. And again, I think they leave a lot out. I think they leave out what they plan on demolishing. Because we saw earlier pictures where you could see that the city was built out completely in every direction. The neighbor is about to mow his alfalfa, if you can hear a tractor. And here we go again, the rotting piers below, the fresh boards on top, very little people, horse and wagon, and an absolutely overkill view here. Here again we can see how weathered and incomplete or damaged these buildings are. Just look at the top of this one. I think the top of this one is all you really need to focus on. Look at this thing. You don't build like this unless you are at the peak of your game. I mean, today we are at the peak. We could build something like this today. It would take a long time, but it could be done, but nobody would do it. It's way too cost prohibitive. Another one next to it, just the tops. And moving forward, nobody would build like this. Everything would become square, cubes, because that's economical. This is frivolous. Very difficult to build this way. And here we can see the top. I would love to see the inside of this dome. It looks fully decorated. It looks as if some of these windows have been painted, or they may just have blinds. Really good kind of blackout blinds. Up here we do see shininess in the windows on the top floor. And here's a look at the bottom. No real clarity on how far down this building goes. We can see windows down here and some kind of rampage and an entrance down below. Beautiful columns, brick, concrete. And I think this is heavy. I don't know about you, but for me this is heavy. Seldom do we get such a clear picture. Now we do see automobiles in this one. We see a combination of auto and horse and wagon in these photos. This, I think, is the Traymore Hotel. I mean, here we go, 1800s, and every bit as sophisticated as things that would come 100 years later. I think that this is absolute proof. And you don't get this. You just don't get this in our history. You don't get this unless you go digging, like we do in this community. And again, I thank Jarid for this video. Great showcase he put together. Here's a little look at the inside, just to give you a feel that it's equally as impressive in and outside. Marble, stairs going down, stairs of marble. I mean, looking like all the materials you see in city halls and cathedrals, capitol buildings. And here we go again with the Traymore. Unbelievable. What are you, just gonna walk upstairs? The old Mudflood channel made a great video. Perhaps I'll do that next week, talking about elevators. But I can just sum it up. I mean, many of these buildings are built before the elevator. And sometimes history tells us around the same time. But an elevator, it just doesn't make sense. There's so much land. It's supposed to be the beginning. And you're building up? You build up when you don't have space. There's no reason to build up unless you are limited on space. I mean, this is so futuristic. This is just stupid. I'm sorry. This is not a hotel. Well, I think it was a hotel. It may have been a hotel, but not for these people. And this thing is in ruins. I think it's clear. I think a lot of these windows are missing. This reminds me of something we looked at like 5 years ago in North Korea. And they had a giant hotel, like shaped like a pyramid. And it was in absolute ruins. Really having the same vibe. And like I said, other countries, especially communist countries, are still in the process of being cleaned up. It's like the 1800s in communist countries. They're just starting out. It'll take them, in some cases, 50 to 100 years to prepare the history and physicality of these future nations. The same building from down below. And I'm sorry, but earlier they said there was like 100 rooms in the Traymore. No, there's like 1,000 rooms in this hotel. And look at this advertisement here. Helmar, really? You put up this latticing for this? Or was this something else? There's another one behind it here. And all these people. We've seen this before at World's Fairs with their bowler hats. Totally unnatural. Everyone told to pose for this picture. Because this isn't just some random thing. These people didn't just randomly find their way in this city. No, they've all been invited. They're the first wave, and more will follow, and they will essentially have all the best real estate, and their families will be in pretty good shape for several generations. So here we can see something that has survived, just to give you a feel up and close and personal. And often I talk about, did Rome really perish? I think it's foolish to say that when we see Rome in every corner of this realm. But Rome was not Rome. Rome was a people that existed everywhere, that built like this, and was displaced. They had everything we do today and more. And when you consider most of what we looked at today has been demolished, it shows that there is no appreciation for this past people and an active effort to erase any traces of their existence in the event that took them out. So I'm going to leave it there for today. I thank you all. God bless. I love you all, and I'll see you next week.